I'm Tracy Gardner, I'm Economic Development and Tourism. We are just having the space for them to talk about their project. I'm Ed and Nermeen. So, we're just here to say welcome. And Jonathan's our county administrator. Okay. Party, not an official meeting, this is an informational, informal gathering.
And thank you for coming.
Dustin.
And sorry we're late, we came from DC, so traffic is so unpredictable.
So what we'll do again, as Tracy mentioned, thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for putting this on. I think it's always good to get feedback. We know that you haven't, I guess, officially filed for the SUP yet, or we'll see and be heard, but it's good to have feedback from those around the area. So this isn't a county meeting, but we're happy to offer the facility. The only thing that I will say, our plan, but I think it's fair to mention it to you, was to record it. It's not streaming, but record it. So if we got to go back to what was the community, the concerns, to make sure when it goes through the SUP process. And by the way, we have our Planning Commission Chairman, Mr. Carpenter, back there as well. Thank you for being here, sir. If I missed anybody else, forgive me. But that was our plan for the night. We do have the microphone, so if you'd like to use it so folks can hear. Media is here tonight, but he's covering your event. Again, this isn't us streaming, but he is here tonight, Mr. Jackson with Mad Rap. So we have the microphones available. You just simply cut them on. If you need to talk, we'll have them available for the audience too, so we capture the sound. But we're not looking to do official minutes, but the meetings, you're welcome to be here. I'm gonna cut the other mic.
Thank you very much.
And if you guys do want to do that, I'll let you get situated.
And if you need Mr. Barry to scroll through, just say next slide, please, or move along, and he will. If you want to use that, we are happy to do that.
That would be perfect.
If you have anything that we hand out, you guys can do that.
Yes, sir. So we do have the site plan, just for everyone to
Yeah, you can. Some might be willing to share too. Do y'all want to just introduce yourselves? Or do you want to wait?
Tom Miller, my daughter, Samantha, we live literally right down the road from me. So you received the letter? Oh, yeah, died yesterday. That's good. Yep, yesterday.
Virginia Hideout, I live right off of Ford Shop Road. Originally from Philadelphia area, we found us about 6 years ago, but my family's all from here.
My name is Arlene Barry Atkins. I live on Ford Shop Road. I also live up there.
So probably, you know, when the
I know all of them.
I'm Diane Johnson Harper. I also live on Fort Chalk Road. It's been my home all my life. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say.
I'm Josh Clark, live on Ford Shop Road. Been there my whole adult life. Interested to hear what you got.
Keep going down the line, please, and start all introductions.
Oh, hi, I'm Kathy Gilmartin, this is my husband Bob, and we live on Beantown Road, we got your letter.
At the end here, please, we're just going through the room, identifying yourself, where you live, as associated with the project.
I'm Doug Berry. I live up the road 3/10 of a mile from where they get ready to put this campsite. And I grew up in that area, played in that river, baptized in that river, so I'm very familiar with the area. So I'm waiting to hear what the plans are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on the same thing.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's very too.
We'll just keep the left to right fashion going. Mr. Carpenter?
Joe Goodall, live across the river, or have property across the river, representing Goodall Family Farm.
you talk?
I am not.
One family member called me a couple of days ago. Ray?
Different
No.
set of Goodalls.
Same last name.
Ray and Lois
Same
Goodall.
last name. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Good.
And I'm Joe's wife, Gay. Nice to meet you.
My name is Janine Jensen. I live in Aroda. I'm not a direct neighbor, but I have a business here and I'm on the tourism committee.
in the back.
I'm sorry, I'm Paul Avagatis. I'm with Plow and Hearth. We're one of the local employers here. Wanted to hear about your project too. Welcome you.
Thank you, Paul. To the wonderful Brightwood Goodall.
Yeah, Ray and Lois.
Ray and Lois Goodall.
Property owners.
Forward shot.
I'm Anthony Clatterbuck. I have a farm just downriver.
All right, I think we did introductions in the back. Mr. Berry is our wonderful executive assistant here. Supervisor Dawson beside him. Supervisor Yao is directly behind you. Our planning commissioner, Michael Snyder, and Tracy, I think, is playing tonight. That's where he normally sits. Our planning chair, Mr. Carpenter, he identified himself earlier, and then Mr. Jackson is with the press. So the floor is yours.
Well, yeah, thank you for coming, everyone. Again, sorry it was a late traffic on our side. So, yeah, I mean, we, just to introduce myself, my name is Ahmed Helmi, and I work in real estate development. We've been doing different types of real estate projects, but lately we've been focused on what they call like nature retreats. So we basically focus on hospitality right now. And within the hospitality, when we say nature retreats or glamping, it's been like, you know, a new word in the industry, which is basically means glamorous camping, which is like, you know, for soft campers, they call them soft campers, who probably never camped before, but they want to, you know, experience nature with a bit of some pampering, some comfort. So they come stay in tents, but these tents are not necessarily, I mean, these are like permanent tents, and they have their own beds, living area, they have their own bathrooms, so it's more of like, you know, a bit of an upscale camping experience. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nermeen. Everyone calls me Nooni, if that's easier. I'm his wife and his little assistant, trying to help him out of the project. I'm more responsible for the design aspect of things, and yeah, just keeping him on track.
Thank you. So yeah, we live in Maryland, so it's like 2 hours away from here, very close to DC. We've been looking across many areas to develop these projects. It's becoming the trend nationwide. You have these projects happening in California, upstate New York, Texas, Florida. It's all across. Different developers, different operators, and usually these projects are closer to national parks, where there's some natural attractions that, you know, already attract, you know, visitors. So in this case, it would be Shenandoah National Park. That's the anchor of this area. But in addition to that, usually like the type of guests that we target are guests that not only are interested to hike and to experience the national parks, but also then interested in local food, local wineries, local arts, local crafts. So usually we're just a base camp for them. They come, they stay at our resort or retreat, but they usually spend most of the day just, you know, experiencing the local area, the local, you know, attractions. Our first project in this area, so yeah, maybe you can scroll, just take it slide by slide, and just to share our vision, what we want to do in this project. And by the way, that's a picture that we took, I think, last fall, from the property in question.
In October.
Yeah, it was October, yeah. So, I mean, the property has amazing views and rolling hills and river. So what we want to do, I mean, across all these retreats is basically create nature retreats that are novel and unique. And when we say novel and unique, we try to blend in really with the land and be very light on the land in terms of construction. So we go with the contours to minimize grading when we do the roads. We try to minimize circulation of motor vehicles inside the property, so we try to have a central parking area and have like electric golf carts for commuting within the property itself. We try to use local materials, local furniture if possible, local food, so we have these farm-to-table kind of restaurants within these retreats. And what we try to do is offer what we call luxury accommodation outposts. So it's basically blending nature with luxury. Luxury is a very wide for it. It has a wide spectrum, but it's basically comfortable camping. It's not luxury. It's not like a Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, but it's you're comfortable. You're being served. There's housekeeping. There's a restaurant. There's a bar. So it's basically experience nature in a luxurious manner. We also try to bring communities together in these experiences. So we're very much focused on working with the community to make sure that our property is serving the community in terms of like the local economy. There's a backward effect in the economy. We try to do that as much as possible. And when we started focusing on Shenandoah, we tried with Madison County first, but that was like maybe a year and a half ago. We couldn't find a property that fit back then. So we shifted our attention to other areas, and our first property in this area was in Shenandoah County. It's more of a wooded 50-acre project surrounded by the National Forest in Basie, very close to the ski resort over there. So we started with that project. We worked over there. If you don't mind, the next slide, please. Yeah. So just to give you an example of the previous project, well, you usually try to work very closely with the community, and also be, like we said, like very light on the land. So we're steward of the land when we come to our development strategy. We try to build something that is elegant, and when we say elegant, it factors in the local art, the local character of the area, and we think Madison's rural character fits a lot with our concept. So we're not going to create something that is very foreign to the character of the area. And again, when it comes to economy, we try to make it a profitable business that is sustainable. We don't want to build anything that fails and leave, just a junkyard after. I mean, because if we operate like for 2-3 years and then we shut down, it's not good for anyone. So we try to make it economically viable, not only for us but also for the surrounding community. So that's our formula. Next slide, please. So yeah, and that's an example of a tent that we would be developing in this area. So it's, as you see, there's a bed. I mean, the tents are usually heated. There's climate control within the tent. There is an ensuite bathroom. You do have sometimes an outdoor shower. You do have a deck. So it's well furnished.
And they look very beautiful from the outside.
Yeah, they're very
very nice, very elegant, very subtle. Like they blend in with the land.
So I mean, in terms of programming of the retreat, you would have the lodge. The lodge usually is designed as much as possible to blend in with the local characters. So we try to use local architecture. The lodge would also have a communal fireplace outdoors, also a fireplace indoors. We would have a farm to table restaurant, a bar, and a wellness center would be like a small spa within the lodge itself, or close to the lodge. Swimming pool, sometimes it's indoors and outdoors, but it would be a small swimming pool serving the guests themselves. We also have trade systems within the property, so our guests will experience the property. Maybe they want to sit next to the river, they want to walk around the property, so we create this connectivity experience within the property itself. Yeah, like you said, I mean, all the accommodation structures are basically tents, canvas tents, insulated, of course, for climate control. And usually our season really starts in April to November.
And then we remove the tents, there's no sight of the tents.
I mean,
just the
yeah,
structure, right?
we just keep the skeleton of the tent.
So they're air conditioned?
Yes, they're air conditioned.
What about the septic?
So with septic systems, it depends on the property. Not all land is created equal. So with our Shenandoah property, we did have hookups. They do have public water and sewer. In that location, it would be we will use wells, and we will create our own septic and drainage feeds. Sometimes the soil does not allow, so we would have what they call package plants, which are non-conventional systems that treat they treat the wastewater within a mechanical system itself. So we don't need leach feeds in that case. So it really depends on the soil of the property.
What is the total amount are they dirt? Do you
We call them fence, but some people,
They're like
call them
that.
routes, yeah.
Correct.
But they're basically canvas.
So how many total?
So that plan will be 70 tents, separated by, we try to a minimum of 50 feet apart. And what we do is like we use the landscapes and the slopes to create privacy, so the orientation of the tents would be like, we follow the orientation on the slopes to create privacy between the tents. And we also use landscape to partition the different tents.
For events?
So no outside events. I mean, if it comes like, a wedding, it has to be all reserved for the wedding. So we don't have day events where someone can come and basically reserve a space just for the wedding. Maybe they have to stay on the property, they have to stay overnight, so they have to reserve the whole thing for a wedding. So we don't have day events or like the weddings per se. And also on that note, we don't have amplified noise, so we don't use amplifiers or acoustics. So we don't have like amplifiers or.
Still the amount of traffic, 70 of these?
Yes. So with traffic really with these kind of retreats, the peak periods are very limited during check-in time, which is around between 11 to 2 o'clock, and then during checkout, which is usually like 4 to 5. So these are the peak periods. Other than that, usually like our guests, they wake up in the morning, they have breakfast, they leave the camp, they spend the whole day like hiking or experiencing local restaurants or wineries. Then they usually come around 6 for dinner, and usually like the quiet time is from around 11 a.m. till.
Just so gonna have vendors bringing in this.
Yeah, there are logistics there are operations, there are logistics, but usually these are the peak periods of traffic when it comes to traffic. Yeah.
Have you done any VDOT studies on the roads?
So with VDOT, we always contact VDOT. That will be our first agency before we even put an offer on a property for site distance and for traffic. They said this kind of property, they don't have any problems with the site distance, meaning like the curves of the road or anything that will require major improvements on the road itself. But the entrance itself has to meet their guidelines. But they were okay with the way the road is designed and the width and the existing traffic on the road. This road has very low traffic, by the way. I'm trying to remember the number.
Right.
The current.
That's how we like it.
What we like about it.
Yeah.
So you're creating a peaceful retreat for these people, but we
But
lose
you're
all the
making their
peace.
life miserable.
So the ones that
With the
live there
traffic.
lose all the peace and quiet and solitude.
Definitely
and
there's no
nice,
traffic.
comfortable-
Yeah.
Right around that river, there's that sharp bend.
Yeah, but not, so with site distance,
Right there.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, I think right by your entrances maybe. How are you gonna accommodate people? 'Cause people from outside do not know those roads, and I can see accidents happening there.
so with site distance, there's a formula, they would factor in the width of the road, the speed, like the speed limit of the road, and the curves. So with that property, I think the speed is 40 over there. 40 or 45?
It's 40 in the housing development,
Yeah.
further up,
Yeah.
but it's not marked on.
So then with the site distance, I think we
It's
have.
not posted, so it's 50 to 55.
I
Very
remember-
well, they typically run.
Yeah, so the site distance for that entrance is more than 600 feet, which even for 50-55, it's okay with VDOT within the 600. You have a straight line of 600 feet, like in terms of site distance. So complete stop will be okay for VDOT in terms of their safety measures to stop and have an entrance.
And I think, if I may, again, I'm trying to avoid, this is your meeting, I think later in here, you may have it there, but I believe that layout is also on the slide, right? So it may make it easier when we get to that point to show, because he's had a development committee meeting with the county, so you can talk about your entrance. Your entrance is not on that sharp court, by the way, Jonathan Weekly, Meander Run Road, which is right around the corner. But that entrance is up further from that. That is a very narrow curve.
If I was telling her, if you go off that road, if you make that curve and head on up, like that, there is a, lack of a better word, a driveway on the right into that field.
Yes.
That's how Clay and everybody else gets in there to mow it.
Yeah.
Like that, that's pretty daggone close to where that is, so
Yes,
that's
sir.
where it's gonna be at.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I think this specific entrance has been designed to meet VDOT's requirements.
Right, yeah.
That's why it's in that specific location.
But have they done any studies on that? Have they told you, like, are you gonna have to widen that road at all?
They wouldn't need to widen the road, but the entrance itself has to meet commercial, what they say, commercial entrance requirements. For the entrance to meet the requirements.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the width of the road for VDOT, I think, is satisfactory. They don't need turn lanes. They do not need.
Most people live there know that curve is there. And a lot of people have come down out so fast they ran right over in the river.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I measured on your map here, it looks like that's gonna be approximately 150 feet up from that curve before you go into your lot. Is that correct?
I think more than 150 feet.
Well, if that's
It should be 600, I would assume around 600 feet.
Well, 600 feet will put you up out where that old house is at. There's an old house that's down in that hollow there.
No.
That's all the way at the top of the property.
If you look at the paper he's got, on the left-hand side, you'll see it barely there, it's E, I believe it is. It's the existing power line. The existing power line goes up, goes through his property and stops at where the other, where that house is. So I think they're,
So from that curve to the entrance would be.
right, I think they're, had that house be at top of property. I think. Oh, yeah, right, yeah, it's right there, right top of the property. Well, I'm not creating a problem with you about asking that particular question.
I'm happy to send you like.
I've lived there all my life, and like I said, I played in that river, and I know most of the houses and all their roads that go to all their property. And then one time, I knew who used to own all their property, but a lot of property's been sold now, I don't know who's bought the property.
I mean, if you want the specifics of the distance between that curve, I can send you like the specifics in terms of like the distance between the curve, the entrance, and how do they do the math for the site. How do they do the math in terms of the location? Why would we choose that location based on the speed of the road and the site distance from the curve till the specific entrance? I mean, VDOT has a map for it. They have guidelines for it. So yeah, and we wouldn't be approved without VDOT. I mean, they have to approve this for us to get a permit. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so how many of these sites have you done? Just the one in the Shenandoah, or you?
So no, there's Shenandoah, there's Catskills, there's Yosemite. So we're working on a few projects right now.
How many have been completed already that are being used? Like you're actually, they're like a model of exactly.
So
Shenandoah one's not built yet.
with the Shenandoah one, the folks, I mean, because sometimes we do all the prep work and then we partner with the developer. If you guys want to see the developer that is currently doing the Shenandoah that we're working with, they took over the project. It's called, there's a Getaway in Greene County that is operating right now, called Getaway. How? Getaway.
So that was actually
It is operating. I think it's been in business for 2 years. But that would be an example of, they're the ones who right now are developing the Shenandoah project. It's called Getaway.
In Greene County?
In Greene County, yeah.
Okay, but that's the only one that you've done? Like
That's the only one operating.
So this is, you're gonna be learning on this one, right? Then?
No, so because we usually partner with operators, we never operate. We get experienced operators to do the operations. But in terms of the development, yeah, we have experience across, like I said, like Catskills. There's a project in Yosemite. There's a project in Lake Placid, but we never operate.
Okay, but those
I
are
never
all,
operate.
but those are all operating right now.
But yeah, Bar Harbor is operating. There's, but yeah, so in Bar Harbor you see an example of Terramore operating. There's Getaway operating in Greene County.
But you started them and then you partner with somebody?
Yes, yeah, we partner with an operator.
So do you own them
It's
or do you
like
franchise?
I'm sorry.
Do you own them or just franchise them out?
developer.
Yes, yeah. I
Do
don't
you
want
own the land right now?
this one?
Yeah.
No, it's on the contract.
But so you're gonna
I would
purchase it,
buy it.
you're gonna buy it, and then
Yes.
you're gonna partner with someone else, and then you will transition it to that new developer
Yes.
who is not at the meeting.
Yeah, but they have to abide by whatever I permit, they have to abide by. They cannot change anything with the permit side. So let's assume we were talking about, like, say, voluntary conditions that we need to put, like, say, in terms of lighting, noise, any waste management. Whatever I put on the permit has to be factored in development, or else the permit will be revoked. So, this is zoned agriculture.
You're gonna have to do a special use permit?
It is a special use permit. Yeah.
So we're gonna let you finish, and ask questions later, or?
I mean,
How do you wanna do this?
Yeah, I'm fine with having, unless you guys need more detail about the project, we can discuss.
I think, let me finish.
Well, let me just ask
You
one
might
more
ask your
question.
question.
I just have one more question. So you said 70 tents, but how many, is it a two-person tent? So you're talking about 140 people at full capacity? What is the?
So 50% are like double occupancy, which would be like 2 individuals, and 50% will take like around 4, which is like more like families, like with kids.
So what's the maximum capacity for the?
So maximum will be 4 times 35. And I mean, if we're running 100% occupancy, the I think 200.
Now, and the restaurant is only for those 210?
Only for you.
Okay.
No, not open for the public.
Not open, okay.
No, just for the guests.
So, next week, use the restaurant.
No, I mean, when I say public, like, I mean, with the community, that it's a different story, but I mean, we're not advertising it for, like, someone from DC to come and have lunch and leave. It's not like a winery where, like, anyone can.
So if I live right up the street, if I want to go get dinner there, I could?
And you get a discount.
Yeah, so the community, we would have an agreement with the community, people living in Madison County. They have, like, especially, but yeah, we're not advertising it, like, online for the public.
It's supposed to be a very zen experience, very quiet experience, like it's not an event place, it's like people are coming there to be like one with nature, and like they do a lot of yoga and meditation. This is the type of clients we're looking for, also older clients. Like
Yeah,
not,
so the
not,
average
not
age,
young,
average
but
age is
it's
around
expensive.
45.
It's very expensive, yeah. So it's
Is this a worldwide, you have, other places in other countries, don't you?
Not at this point.
We wish.
We have
our
like,
website, you have the blue
Right.
place in India,
Yes.
which is not in relation to you, I guess.
Ah,
But it was similar tents in the, yeah, I saw that too.
okay.
Yeah, there's not, like, no relation,
Ah,
that's what she's referring to.
I thought on the letter.
I have a farm downriver, and I've got a couple of pretty good bends in the river. And I have like a little beach area and a private place for my family. And I've already had problems with folks coming and enjoying my area and leaving trash and giving me problems downriver from this. I would expect that there would be a significant number of additional kayakers and people who would come and float the river, which is fine, but would feel empowered to use my property as part of their experience, and I'm very concerned about that.
you mean like,
But the other concern I have is the septic. With 210 people there, that's a significant septic load. And while this area is a good area for, earth for septic, it's quite absorbent, that is still a pretty big load, particularly with the commercial aspect that's down below, close to the river. So those are my main concerns.
so with the septic, your concerns then would be like would it create like environmental hazards?
Possibly.
I think if it's well designed and well engineered, it should not have, and given that we have to get approvals from the DOH, I would assume that we have to, I mean, unless it's.
Well, it depends how you permit it. If you permit these tents as intermittent use, you you have a much lower flow rate that you're required to accommodate than you do if for a house, it's totally different if you have an intermittent rate or full-time rate. And I would expect that, the health department would allow you to use an intermittent rate. And yet, at capacity, the intermittent rate might not stand the test of time.
So from our experience, it's around 70 gallons per day for 10.
On a bedroom in a house per day is 150 gallons a day.
So yeah, these 10.
And that has laundry capacity as well, which you would not have.
Yeah, so 70, and if we factor in the lodge, the pool, the restaurant, I think it's around 70 to 20,000
Gallons a day.
gallons a day. All in.
So if
We'll
you
factor in
have
70
a package
gallons.
plant, if you have a package plant, that goes into the river.
Yeah.
That would release the treated effluent into the river.
Correct.
Which would be directly above my property, releasing an effluent, and as they claim, you can drink the water, but I am not one who would think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
See, package plants, what the Bible camp over in Rochelle has a package plant, and it releases into the stream that runs down below it. But your capacity, 20,000 gallons a day, that's significant, and it's gonna be right there at the river, and it would have to release into the river.
At this point, I don't have geotechnical like details regarding the soil and the requirements. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a patch plan or not. I don't have an answer for that. If it's going to be like a conventional system or not.
It could be a number of conventional systems possibly, which would be certainly more desirable than a package plant.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't have an answer for that right now. And yes, you're right. It is supposed to be drinkable water, but it sounds. I mean, it doesn't sound like something that when you imagine like wastewater going in the river. It doesn't sound very pleasant.
My question, would you want this in your neighborhood? Would
This
you want this right next door to your house?
this kind of project?
Yep.
Yes, I would.
You would want-
Why would I?
Why?
Why? Yeah, because I mean, it's a very rural experience. It's not a Disney resort, meaning that it's not even your regular RV campground where like it's a very quiet experience. It's a very secluded experience. So I don't think me as a neighbor my lifestyle's not going to change, my experience is not going to change. There won't be like loud noises at night, there won't be people partying till the morning. There wouldn't even be kayaks in the river because we're not having any water-based activities. So that's in terms of my day-to-day life is not going to change. Traffic 100%, there will be no traffic. That's something I cannot change. But if I can guarantee that those folks are good neighbors, then it's just like any other good neighbor that I have. From an economic perspective, the value of land really appreciates with these kind of projects because they do. I'll give you an example of Shenandoah. I mean, the value of the property there, and that's a fact, I think it was a multiple of 5, just because this project is coming there. Just because this project is coming there and you added a special use permit to it.
Right.
And became more of a commercial business, the value of the land multiplied by 5.
And
that's a fact.
And it multiplied by 5 in like 3 months. So
Is that the surrounding land or is this the?
So this specific property, so I would assume, I mean,
Other property.
they would rise too, because you're putting this.
We don't want the rise.
Right.
So that's another thing. Yeah, but, so
air taxes.
your taxes? Well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, so I mean, to answer your question, because I know exactly what will be developed, and if you guys go visit like something like, or go see the reviews for this getaway project, as an example, these are like people who just want seclusion, and usually these are city people who they just want to disconnect and just want, you know, they're not coming here for like, they would rather stay. I mean, if they're looking for like, you know, a party, they would probably stay in their city or go to New York City. Or, so
See, a lot of us live out here to get away from the city people.
but
For
when they
any
come,
reason,
yeah.
and we
They're
sit
coming
there
after
and
you.
we may work in DC or Northern Virginia a lot, for instance, I do. I don't want all the city people down here. I don't wanna come back to my home and experience the same thing I'm having to work through. This is my little seclusion and little
But they're coming here.
piece of
Yeah,
privacy,
I hear
and
you.
then we're sitting there fixing to lose it.
I agree. This is not your. I mean, Madison very rural. It is more of a farming community. It's a very quiet community. So, I mean,
This
yes,
don't-
looking at this site plan, I mean, this
And
is.
from where we're at, you're gonna have that down the street from my house, 70 tips, couple hundred extra cars and people a day going in and out of there. No, I don't want that.
But I mean, you were.
Taken away from our rural county and our river, and you telling me there's not gonna be any impact on that river? I'm playing bull. Unless you fence it off that they can't get to it, your camper's gonna be in that river. It's a nice
You mean
river, it's
swimming
a
in the
nice
ri-
swimming hole, it's a
You mean
nice.
swimming in the river?
Or kayaking.
I mean, they're kayaking, they're swimming.
No, they're not.
In that river constantly.
I mean,
Couple
they won't
fishing.
they're not going to be kayaking in the river. That's guaranteed. Because they cannot bring their kayaks in the retreat, and we're not offering any water-based food.
But you can't
They-
stop them
You
from
can't
bringing it
stop them.
themselves.
Of course
Right.
they can, because it's
No,
liability.
no,
on
it's-
it.
it's-
Like, they can't do that.
So, I mean,
Not off
we
our
will
property.
have, yeah.
No, but they could park, show up, stay at your resort with a kayak on the car, go right up your property where there's a nice landing right by the bridge, and launch in there, sit them down the river and come back. and
Yeah,
sit
that I can.
You have no control over
Because
that.
see, we already have
They're
that
gonna end
as
up on
part
your
of a problem
But
that
it's
a lot of the people come in there, they'll have trailer loads of kayaks come in and put in the river just around the bend from where you're putting that property.
So,
So
yeah,
if your campers see that, and they
So
go
does
right
the river
there, then
attract
that
a lot of
problem just
kayakers?
compounds.
But it might not be,
Like- like
you'll
do they
you'll
kayak
have
a
a
lot?
Yeah, they
developer,
kayak
Okay, I
a
didn't
lot
know
there.
that.
you'll have a developer who takes over, and he might not be as good as you, might not care as much as you do, and he said, I wasn't at that meeting, I'm just, can't stop them from kayaks and going off my property and launching.
And that's almost the central hub. It's a great kayak spot because you got 2 or 3 spots upriver depending on the length of trip you want. You got 2 or 3 spots downriver depending on the length of trip you want, as far as good entry and exit points. That has always been a big thing with this river and the swimming hole, and that's, you put this many guests beside it, you're gonna have that river full of people. And the word of mouth spreads rapidly. So whether your guests are doing it, or whether they go back to Maryland or DC or wherever, oh my gosh, we got this awesome place down in Madison and blah, 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 and next thing you get to know, you got a million people down there. No.
How much is it, do you think it kind of goes per night?
Around, the average across the year, I'd say like around $150.
$350 a night.
Yeah, give or, I mean, it fluctuates across the seasons, but that's an average. Around $350.
Is there cooking on site at the tent, or
No.
there's no grills or anything?
No grills, no. There are no designated grills for each tent.
Fire pits?
No, I mean, no fire pits. There's a communal fire pit, and if we ever consider fire pits, there will be like propane, fire, not like wood fire pits.
Because we can see the property from our property. Is it gonna be like golf carts all night going up and down these golf trails?
So the guests do not drive their golf carts. If they need to, usually they prefer walking, but if they need a ride, it will be one of our staff members taking them to the tent from the lodge or from the central parking area, which is very close to the road.
Once they're settled in, they're all walking.
Mostly they walk.
They call for, the handicap thing, call for golf cart.
In the wintertime, the tents are taken down and it's just the wood platforms, so you'll have 70 wood platforms out there. pool is shut down, the kitchen's closed, is that right?
Yeah, it depends it depends on the area. If it's an area with very heavy snow, we do remove. Sometimes if it's not, and I think in Virginia, it's not like we pass it. We might just keep the campus as is. But yes, the camp, if we call it the campground, it will be I'd say from November to April, non-operated.
Question. Staff-wise, would you be bringing staff in or would you be hiring locally? And what size would your staff be?
So we usually prefer hiring locally, and we also work with like local colleges, like, students who are in hospitality or hotel management. They would join because these are seasonal employees, except for the GM, maybe another two individuals. So it's mostly students from surrounding universities. They stay on site. There will be like employee housing on site, and I would say for this kind of operation, around 35 employees, 30 to 35.
So on your levy,
Restaurant?
Including the restaurant,
Is that kind of, is that including restaurant?
including the food and beverage.
so how many this says employee housing, how many, what do you live on site?
35.
Where are they housed?
Yeah, on the map it shows,
There's employee housing on the property itself.
the parking lot it looks like.
Yeah, so right in the corner of the property. Being north of the lodge itself.
So you got 35 people living in that H that is about the size of a tent?
Are you measuring the baseline? So that's around
Like,
I think it was around 6,000 square feet. I mean, you will have the programming, but it's around 6,000 square feet or maybe. Yeah, I can give you the exact size. Yeah, but that's an older version. The one they have is the latest version. Yeah, thank you.
I was gonna say, does it have to be 70 sites? Could you do fewer with less impact? And like, how many sites did you have at the other active 50? Because I feel that 70 is very optimistic. And even though your occupancy rate wouldn't be 100%, it still seems like a large number for a 38-acre plot.
You mean in terms of the guest experience, or you mean in terms of traffic?
All of the above, the guest experience, the neighbor, community experience, and, maybe have fewer places and charge more if these people are willing to drop $350 a night on tents.
Yeah.
Maybe charge $450 and reduce your number down to 40.
Yeah. So the thing is with hospitality, it's very hard to break even with a lower number. And if you do that, the project will not be sustainable for a long time. The reason the other one is 50 is that the experience there is very different. There it's mostly people come in, self-contained, no restaurant. So the operation cost is very low when you don't have a restaurant, you don't have a housekeeping, you don't have. But with this one, because you have 35 staff members, you have the operation cost is higher, so less than 70, the economics don't work.
The other one in Green County or the one in Shenandoah?
Both. Yeah, it's 50. I'm not sure about Green County. I'm sure about Shenandoah. 50 cabins, 50 tiny homes.
So, going back to the air conditioning question I had earlier, so each tent has like its own AC unit?
Yeah.
So it'd be 70 air conditioners running, and like, summer is hot, they're not gonna
Yes.
finish up. So all summer, we're gonna be hearing AC units throughout the night.
I mean,
They're gonna be running nonstop in the summer, if only insulated the tent.
How do you have a
That's-
generator?
there will be
Generator for auxiliary or
primarily for the lodge. There will be a generator.
for auxiliary party or all permanent party? behind it.
Oh, no, yeah, back, yeah.
Oh, back.
Auxiliary, yeah.
Now you'll hear a huge diesel generator.
That's only about
That's not all the time.
You should never have around here.
Not all the time.
Power goes out a lot.
Yeah, one thing you haven't talked
Knock
about,
on wood.
one thing you haven't talked too much about, you said there will be no amplification, no amplified noises and stuff like that. Evidently, you have not been around this area any time of day, especially at night. Where we live, which is down in a hollow, we're right down from that, we're down the hill from you guys, in that little area, we're down in a hollow down there. I hear vehicles on 634 3 miles away and think that they're driving down my driveway, like that on certain nights. I'm not saying that the entire time. So the acoustics for different things, if you're gonna have 70 tents with however many people there, like that, yeah, you're not gonna if they're talking, if they have radios or something like that, you can hear that. I hear people through the woods a mile away, like that. You know, like that. Matter the Penn Hollers, when they would have a birthday party for their son years ago, I realized that like that, we would hear it. And there's a hill between us. But it's just, it's the echo, the noise is, it's not loud like we're in this room talking to each other like that, but you can hear almost every word that's being said. And
Especially
so,
if you have the ones up on that hill right there.
yeah, we'll hear anything that goes on with that group right there. But yeah, you can say we're not gonna have an amplified, what do you call things or something like
Speakers,
that.
like-
But all the vehicles going by, you will hear them continuously. We will, I'm sure everybody else is gonna hear it too, like I said before, the sound travels. You'll be around here sometime when we have a thunderstorm. And I love it, because of the fact that you hear, I mean, it just rolls. The thunder just constantly rolls, there is no pop, and it's done, like that. But it's just, everything is.
So, yeah, when I
To
said
me,
that-
just because the noise is not amplified, it will be amplified on its own by that much stuff coming in, that many extra cars, that many extra people. Like I said before, just radios, like the people talking to each other in the tents, unless they're, how you doing? Like, you know, they're not gonna be doing that. If they've got family and stuff like that, there's gonna be yelling, there's gonna be, whatever like that, partying, whatever you wanna call it, I don't care what. But it's just you're gonna hear that, or we will hear that. You won't hear that, you live in Gaithersburg. Or at least your company's in Gaithersburg.
Yeah.
But you live in Maryland. I used to live in Maryland. I used to live just south of Andrews Air Force Base. We moved down here back in '88.
So, regarding the noise, yes, there will be traffic, of course, but it's not, I mean, again, I think noise during the day is definitely more acceptable than noise at 10 p.m. I mean, there are times that you can hear a car and you're okay with that because it's noon and you expect to hear cars coming back and forth.
Right, I know that. But it's
10 p.m. is definitely, you wouldn't want to hear it like traffic.
Right.
At 10 p.m. at night, or.
But if
It's not
anybody,
the traffic he's worried
yeah,
about.
it's not traffic, it's the people who
Yes,
are
so,
already
yeah,
in those
I'm trying to
tents.
say,
Number one, if they were houses, it would be different, because it would be a solid wall. Tents don't stop the sound. Canvas does not stop the sound like wood, concrete and everything else on the sound. But it's just, you're talking about in that area right there, that many people, it's going to be a lot of noise.
Yeah, I mean.
May not be amplified to amplify,
I mean,
but it'll be a lot of noise for all of us.
Fact is, there will be more noise than there is today, for sure.
Yeah.
100%, Can I say the point, please? Also, there will be more traffic, so there will be more like vehicle noise.
Right, I know
more
that.
vehicles. Yet, what we can control is, what we know about trends is, these folks, they don't leave, usually they come to dine and they stay on the property after 6 p.m. or so. Statistically speaking, the vast majority does, okay? And we usually have a quiet time between 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. to 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So when we say quiet time, I mean, basically the lodge is closed, the bar is closed, the restaurant is closed, and there's nothing else for them to do but go to sleep or just gaze at the stars until they sleep, because they're not allowed to open their own radio or like play their own music, because they'll be fined if they do so.
No, you
So
said,
that's
you didn't
part.
say that before. You didn't say anything about that before, that there would be no private radios, there would be anything like that.
Yeah, but that's quite.
So we're having a conversation, that's why I'm saying this right now.
Right,
Because
yeah,
you opened that point, so
Right.
we're having a conversation, like a two-way conversation. And that would be part of the voluntary conditions, part of the special use permit.
Right.
So the special use permit would be revoked and the property would be shut down if we start having folks playing their speakers after 11 p.m. So,
I got 11 now.
or 10, whatever is written on the special use permit.
I know.
Whatever is written there is going to be, a requirement, an operational requirement. But yes, there will be more traffic, and yes, there will be more impact. I can't argue.
The traffic I'm not worried about, you're gonna have that, I realize that. I'm not that concerned about that, like I said before, is I'm out here where I'm at now, it's the noise. It's I got, number one, we hear it, I honestly can't say how many miles away, but we hear the train going through Orange. Like, I love hearing that, the whistle, I'm glad like they don't live there, but, that's where it's up. That's why we moved out here, is not so much no noise. I realize there's noise and stuff like that, but it's just that it just seems very hard that, that you're gonna be able to get that with 70 tents. So that many people,
if 10 or 11 p.m. is something that will make things better, and the fact that the average age is like 45, 47 years old of the people that come.
Right.
It gives you some idea about the environment
very
inside the street. Can I guarantee that a 25-year-old kid is not going to come to the property? Of course not. But I'm saying the vast majority are like older couples or like.
But it's still, if you're saying it, it's gonna be a family oriented. You got place for 4 people and stuff like that. Just for lack of a better word, the carrying on, the camaraderie. You get 4 people together and you start talking. You do not keep at this level of voice. You start laughing, you start getting like, I'm interrupting you because while you're talking, so I gotta be louder. So you'll probably shut up, let me talk, or someone else wants to get higher than me like that. That is all gonna add times 7, well, I can't say times 70, but you're gonna have that, and if you have just one of those.
Are there refrigerators in the tents?
No.
Mini bars or?
No, it shouldn't
So
be.
there is a kitchenette, but there's not necessarily like cooking.
No, but people bring their own alcohol in and then drink it, it's midnight and they're up in their deck talking loud, like you're saying.
So the thing is, like, we've had that before, like we would put a condition on the permit that it's 10 p.m. So, I mean, we take this very serious.
Right, okay, now,
Very
I'm
serious.
saying,
I mean, because we don't want to lose our business.
right,
So we're very serious about that, and if it happens to someone, we do find them, we do sometimes even with some operations, we would take some, it's like $250 if for each night that there's a loud voice, if you have to do that, or we just let you. So I mean, we're very serious about operations because we would not want to lose the business. Between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., yes, people will be in the lodge, yes, people will be in the restaurant, yes, or there will be conversations.
number one, if it was such a permit, if I had a chance to say something about it, it would be a little bit earlier than 10 p.m. 9 maybe, you got kids trying to go to sleep around us like that, who go to bed, still go to bed at 8 o'clock, 8:30, younger kids, grade school and stuff like that. And
By the way,
especially in the summer.
In terms of occupancy rates and noise, the vast majority, like during the week, the occupancy rates are very low. It's the weekends.
Right.
And with the weekends, I think 10 p.m. is okay with the weekend. Weekdays, it runs around like other like Memorial Day and Labor Day. It's running around like 20%, 30% occupancy rate.
If it's increased traffic on the weekends, there's a lot of people in the neighborhood that walk these roads, walk pets on these roads, have animals that's loose crossing these roads. You got bicyclists that actually have routes that go through the area, through the neighborhood.
But this is in
You
any
got
neighborhood,
all
I
these
mean. This is in any
increased-
neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of traffic and there are people walking their dogs and walking their kids. I have my kids all over this neighborhood.
But there's blind corners and people.
In every neighborhood, you can have like signs and.
And there are
We don't
sidewalks,
have
there's,
sidewalks.
there's
Yeah.
safe means of doing that in cities. Here, people's in the middle of the road, they're walking their pets.
Some of our
Some of
neighborhood is
them
not.
got
is not-
headphones on that don't even hear traffic and stuff.
Yeah.
So
That's me walking
if you
with my
got,
headphones. I don't hear
if
anything.
you got some city person that's not used to these roads anyway, they're zipping through there, they hit a
Don't
pedestrian
assume
or
that
a
because city
dog.
people like really respect it when they come to like a beautiful county like this. They're not going to New York City to party. They're going to this county to see the beauty of it, to have a Zen experience, to go with nature. These are not our clients. Like what you're talking about is not our clients.
I have another question.
Like our clients are people who are coming here to respect nature and to respect the environment, and this is what we want in our project. We're so against like anything that will pollute this environment or annoy the neighbors, and this is why we're having this
Just
meeting.
there's annoying the neighbors.
No, you're assuming something, you're being very negative.
You've
Come
already
on.
discussed that, that's
Be
already
more
annoying.
optimistic. This is gonna help the economy. It's gonna have you're gonna have so much employment locally. You're gonna benefit the farms around.
We're not looking for employment, we already employed.
You're not, but like there's a lot of young people around who are looking for
Sure.
employment.
For
Who want
sure.
money,
I have
who
another
want business.
Sure, but
This
that's
is
why
like.
I'm working in
Not back in there.
They're just-
There you go. You have one person.
Your Shenandoah property, I noticed that on that, I pulled it up on my phone, and I noticed on that you have a solar panels. Where would they be placed in reference to your map for?
We don't have any solar
You
plans.
won't have solar
No.
Not on
panels
this
here?
project.
Okay.
This project is gonna look so pretty and beautiful, like from the outside,
Well,
even
looking
when
at
you're
the
looking at it.
Shenandoah one, it looks.
Yeah, that won't have any solar panels.
Right.
It's like so blended with the nature of
You
the.
purchased this land from Ken Hollow, is that correct?
Yeah,
You already purchased the
one
land?
of the sisters. Yeah.
So, he knew that was farmland before he sold it, because I tried to buy some of that land, I live next door, and the remark was made that my fee to be in the area for which it was sold, but this young generation's gonna sell the rest of that farm for what's done with it, which they have a right to do that, it's none of my business what they do. I don't get involved with my neighbors what they do, and I'm not getting involved with you do, but, in your plans, are you planning on buying more property in that area if everything goes well?
Not in the near future. I don't have any plans to buy property in the near future. No.
My house has been up for sale for quite a while. Yeah, so I'm anxious to get out of there. I was born there, and there is, well, there are people who own dogs, that they don't own the highway, but they do stay in the highway for their dogs. And I hit one day, and the guy tried to sue me for, I darted this side to that side, this side to that side, and the dog still came across the road in front of them. They need to keep the dogs out of the road, quit walking the dogs out of the road, quit riding the four-wheelers up and down those highways, they do that all the time. But that doesn't bother me. I don't care if they go to 100 miles an hour. I don't get involved with my neighbors, and I try to help my neighbors. But you got people now that's moving in, and people who own stuff now, and that's what's wrong with Madison today. They think because they own a certain piece of property, they have a right to dictate to everybody in the county. They do not. I have a privacy of my house, and I go out and tell somebody else what they can do. And if they want that privacy, go buy something. Move somewhere else. That's all I can say. Just go somewhere else. But I have been in campgrounds. I've been out of the Cherokees. I love it. I don't need a big fancy house to live in. I think that's what's wrong with this world today. People have forgot how to communicate with each other anymore. They forgot what love means. It's all about what I've got, what I own. That makes me sick when I hear that. And I sit in here and hear this from people from Madison County. What's wrong with the farmers in Madison County? I can tell you, my dad was a farmer. He got paid not to raise anything, and that's what's wrong with this. Hey, it's the truth. He drew a check, they never do farm no more. And you got these farmers that's buying it up now, and they get a discount. I don't get a discount. Madison got $3 million for COVID. I never got a discount on my taxes. So, good luck to you, buddy. I hope you enjoy Madison County. I want to get out of Madison County.
That's encouraging.
Okay. You stick your nose into a hornet's nest, what it sounds like. I advise you just do some more else, not that I can tell you to do, but I wouldn't do it to please these people. You do what you think's right, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
your
sir.
advice.
That's the way I feel.
I wonder if we could see the rest of the slides. I would
Yeah,
like
that
to,
would be nice.
Yes,
I would really like to
yeah,
see.
yeah, we can.
Will it always?
I'm leaving. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Will it always be restricted to tents?
Oldest I can stand.
Because in the '60s, Lake of the Woods was developed, and it was developed as a campground. Now it is a giant subdivision with lots that are too small, homes too close together. So you talked about one of your other projects that was tiny homes. Now, tiny homes are a cool concept, but would this morph to tiny homes? Would that ever be in the equation, or what happens when the tents get old and, I assume they'll get replaced, but is there the potential for this to morph to harder structures?
No, there isn't, and the special use permit is usually very specific to the type of structure that we're using. So, and because it's not a rezoning, it's a special use permit. So to answer your question, straightforward, no, they will always stay as tents, and if the tents get old and depreciate, we just bring new tents. But we cannot put any structure by a tent because the special use permit states that it's a tent. So yeah, it's always going to be a tent.
We also have a lot of hunters, and I hear you about yoga and Zen, and I wonder what would happen to your model when somebody's out shooting turkeys at 6 in the morning or
We have that on the other dam.
and that to want to limit our recreation because it would disturb the people who are enjoying this would be a concern as well.
But how will it disturb hunters?
What?
How would
The hunters
how would
will-
be disturbing the hunters?
Other way around.
Oh, you mean the other way?
The hunters are 6 o'clock in the morning shooting a turkey out there like that. These people were coming in like that, all of a sudden
Someone
started hearing a
with a beeping
gunshot.
So we set expectations. You guys want to come to like in Shenandoah, for example. In Shenandoah, we were surrounded by the national forest, and there's a lot of hunting in the national forest. And we basically set expectations. You want to come to this area? That's how recreation is done in this area. You guys want to come, but we very much set expectations. You will be hearing shots in the early morning if you want to, and they don't mind because they understand that this is part of the experience.
I got a little bit of that during the summertime because of the fact that my property is down from here, as I said, on the river right there. One of those spaces that the only thing it's good for anymore because it floods like that is I have my own little 100-yard shooting range.
Yeah.
I shoot 22s, my 30 or something like that, just for sighting in like that. Not all the time, but like that. I guess turnabout's way fair play. Is that going to start getting them that you'll start trying to put an injunction on me? No, you
I
can't
don't.
do that.
No, and actually, in Shenandoah, our neighbor was a big hunter. I mean, the first time we saw him, he was wearing something deer and hat every time. So just to say, that, I mean, he was sending a message, and what we worked with him and adding voluntary conditions to make sure that there's no trespassing to his property. That there is going to be safety measures taken on our property to make sure that no one gets injured. He wanted to make sure that he's setting expectations that he was always going to continue hunting, and this is a hunting area, and so we were very respectful of that, and we even added in the voluntary conditions as. And by the way, I mean, if you guys ever have the time and go, I can send you links to the process that we went through in Shenandoah. We had a great experience with our neighbors. We even got letters of support from them because we were very accommodating and we put a lot of conditions on the special use permit to satisfy their needs. It's never perfect.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, but at least we try to meet somewhere to collaborate and meet in the middle. And we had a family that runs 400 years in this area. And we had this hunter, we had another HOA, so we had to work with quite a few people, and it took us maybe, I think, like back and forth conversations to try to make everyone not 100% satisfied, but we try to collaborate and meet somewhere in the middle because we don't want to be here and you know, frowned upon, or like every time someone sees me like, oh,
I said, my
my kid was crying.
I don't fully understand a special use permit. I don't fully understand that. I'm not into that much into it. But like I said, my main concern is, you've already pointed it out, that you set everything up, you get someone else in here to develop, and you say bye, and you're gone, like that. What I want is, one of the things I would want to make sure it's on there is that there's not some way in 3 to 4 months after this thing's open and things going up, someone says, we're not getting enough people down here. We need to open it up to what we can do.
I think the planning department and the commission can respond to that better than me, but it is impossible.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't, that they say, well, sometime in the future. Sometime in the future, can be 15 years,
If I am to
5 minutes.
yeah, if I am to change anything on the permit, I have to go through a hearing again.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that.
That's correct, yeah. The conditions are set on special use permit, and they are what they are.
That's what I said. I just want to make sure that it's you doing the one thing, and then you say bye-bye, and that they can't come in and say, well, we've already got work here, already doing this, come on.
Right, and let me add that the process for even getting a special use permit, these folks would come in, they would apply, they would say, put in some proffers that they want, and then it would go to the planning commission, and they have an open meeting for a workshop, and then which everybody's invited to, and hear your concerns, which might add more conditions to the special use permit, and then it will come back before the board of supervisors and planning commission for a recommendation, board of supervisors decision, and the board of supervisors could add more conditions on the fly that night too, and then all will be advertised in the paper, so you'll get plenty of notice through the paper, and any adjacent landowners will get a notice in the mail of the schedule of this sort of stuff.
How long does that process take? How long does that whole process take?
Well, the application, I mean, it could be as quick as 3 weeks, or it could take a couple of months.
But you're planning to apply next month, correct?
So the reason we invited you here is we're hoping that we can work together before the hearing, and that we have all your conditions before the hearing. That way, we're aligned, and you guys are satisfied before we go through the hearing. This is what we did in other areas, where like, oh, okay, we sit together. So, I mean, maybe you'd say, you know what, no way, I'm not here, and that's fine, that's okay, but if we can hopefully reach some agreement before the hearing and put the conditions and present them to the planning commission and the board, saying that based on these,
Can you go to I think the next slide? I had a chance to look at some of them.
Yeah.
And I think with your guests, you plan on doing like yoga, hiking, other things, correct?
yes, yeah, that is correct.
So if they're hiking, where are they gonna be on your property?
On our property.
There's no trespassing.
No trespassing, don't worry.
That's your question?
Well, I wanna see if they're gonna be hiking on your property, or are they gonna be coming in another neighborhood?
Of course not.
No, the trace system is on our property, and we put a lot of signs around the property that, this is the property line, please do not cross to the other side. So yes, the trace systems are confined to our property.
But with all those tents and all those people, 38 acres, I don't think is a lot.
They're not necessarily hiking just on our property. They have the Shenandoah, the skyline.
So they usually leave,
they
leave very early in the morning. They have breakfast. They leave. They usually come like around 6, 7.
So it's not necessarily a hike. Maybe it's a walk.
Well,
Let's call it a walk. A walk around
they
the
want to sit like around the
It's more of
river.
a treat for walking. So
Is your,
That's a good walk.
you said that it's an contingent upon obtaining the special use permit?
Yes,
Okay, so if you don't get that, then the sale's not gonna go through?
yes. No transaction.
Okay.
I'm curious if you talked to Seven Oaks.
No. Yeah, who are the Seven Oaks?
Seven Oaks is a retreat center that's been here for 50, 60 years in Madison that they do yoga, farm to table cooking. They draw international speakers. It's privately owned and held and.
Used to be a nudist camp.
Well.
Madison County. We definitely don't want to hear this.
Can we go through the rest of the
Yes,
slides?
So these are just illustrations for like different lodges, the way things will be designed indoors, like communal fireplaces, outdoor experiences. This slide basically describes our guests, I mean in terms of like demographics, who they are, where they're from. Basically we did mention the fact the average age, what they seek in terms of like, unplugging, unwinding, leaving the city and just relaxing. It is basically, we believe most of the folks will be coming from DC, probably like 70% from DC, maybe 30% from other cities. And yeah, like I said, these folks like to, hike, go to national parks, wineries. So definitely they don't stay most of the day on the property, but they just need to experience the towns and surrounding areas. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Did I hear you correct? You said you developed the property in Greene County?
No, no. A developer called Getaway, they operate the property. Getaway. I can send you, if you guys want to give me your emails, I'm happy to send you like links. For example, like media coverage for our Shenandoah project, how it went, planning commissioner was talking about the property, the project. Also, we can send you a link to this developer who's working on the Shenandoah project, Getaway. I can send links to all this stuff in an email.
I can tell you, I'm not here, it's not my meeting, but I know Getaway because, and the reputation, because Early Mountain refers people to them, and it irritates the out of me because they could be referring to them to stay here. So I know they are reaching that demographic, and the only other thing I'll say about that, as far as the demographic goes, these people, and I've been doing this for 20 years, they are better stewards of our land than our neighboring people that come through our county are usually. They drive a lot slower because they're not used to those roads. So that part I would be concerned about. And of course, I live here too. I would probably trade that, which you guys are looking at, for the honey dogs that I have to listen to all the time.
Thanks. Yeah, so that I think is quite relevant to our conversation today, the community outreach, our strategy. This is what we're doing today. We're introducing the concept to the community. Then we have conversations back and forth. We learn, we try to listen, we try to accommodate as much as possible. Usually we have multiple meetings, so I'm hoping this will not be our last meeting. And we can even, it doesn't have to be like, in that setting, if any one of you wants a one-on-one meeting to have a conversation, more detail about their specific issues, we're happy to accommodate like different formats. It doesn't have to be necessarily in that format. So I'm hoping this is one of many before the hearing. I think we are ready. Would you mind the next slide, please? So these are like examples of our meetings with the community in Shenandoah, how we worked with them. They walked the property with us. We had multiple conversations related to buffers instead of setbacks, beyond the legal setbacks. Stuff related to managing the land, the river, if there are any concerns related to the river, its pollution. We talked about hunting preservation and safety and the proffers that we added to the special use permit over there. Give the guest conduct and how will there be like a code of conduct for the guests in terms of noise, in terms of lighting, waste management, emergency response plan. So we had a conversation, like for example, with the fire department here, with the EMS. And I mean, when we designed this, we factor in, fire department requirements, emergency EMS requirements. So this was designed, and a few of them did walk the property with us before we designed this layout. So, I mean, we try to work with all stakeholders to make it a successful project. Next slide, please. Yeah, and I know some of you are not necessarily concerned about the economic impact on Madison, but this project will around $15–17 million in the economy. Not necessarily all of it in the economy, because we do sometimes source from other areas, but I think a big chunk of it will go in the local economy in terms of development. We work, like to your question, we do work with local schools, local colleges to hire from the local community. We do farm to table, so definitely work with local farms, local wineries. There's good impact on tax revenue, and there's also like what we call a spillover effect on the local economy. We do hire like between 30 to 40 people on the property. Most of them are seasonal, but a lot of them come back usually to work during the season. So yeah, in terms of the next steps, we would like to collaborate more with you and reach hopefully some kind of agreement, offers that we can add to the special use permit or the permit, and that way, whether it's us, other developers or operators, there would be a long-term commitment. In anything that we agree on has to stay with the permit. It doesn't, or else, like I said, the permit will be revoked and there will be no business. So we'll be losing $15–17 million if we are to at midnight be partying or playing, music loud. No one would want to do that. Just, from an economic perspective, why would we invest and then lose all the business? I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
I had a question about the lighting. So the car path, is it lit or what's the light?
It's indirect lighting, so there's no upward lighting to the sky. It's usually like indirect lighting facing downwards.
So they like blackout lines, so you don't see.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there are. Yeah, and even for privacy for guests. Yeah, for blackout. Any questions?
Well, I got one more thing to add on stuff like that. I'm sorry. So the process, it's a two-step process. Even after a special use permit is granted, let's say one is granted, then they have a site plan that they have to submit, and that too can carry proffers like no upward lighting or there must be buffers consisting of 6-foot evergreen trees or whatever. So that's another process that everybody gets notified of and has the opportunity to weigh in on. Now, the county cannot impose their proffers on a site plan. They're your proffers, but we can certainly say we would love to see this, and if you say no, then then the deal's over. But you say yes or work back and forth. But special use permit, we can impose proffers. Site plan, we cannot impose it. It must be voluntary on your part. But everybody has the opportunity. Ray knows this. He's going to do it all. To weigh in on it. Okay, so it's 2 steps.
I have a question for you. So has the county ever revoked a special use plan, or they just slap them on the wrist?
Have they ever revoked one? Yeah. I cannot answer that. I don't know. Jonathan, he was on the board for 8 years. He might know that. I don't know the answer to that.
Rappahannock County did last year. Just let you know, they pulled one on a bed and breakfast / winery.
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because they were holding events and things that wasn't part of the permit
Yeah.
That was the other thing that I think.
that a previous owner had agreed to.
They're not gonna have concerts, that kind of thing. I think that's what he was trying to get to earlier. Talking about
So, yeah, and to your point, Tracy, so it is, I mean, the special use permit is called for an event venue, but that's the naming in the county here. In other areas, they call it rural resort. But it's not gonna be, we're not going to have day events, we're not going to have concerts, we're not going to have musicians. That's not our business model.
But now, if one of the people there want a wedding there, they're gonna have to reserve the whole place,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so say that does happen, how many people can they bring in with them?
Only the people who are spending the night.
Right, but if they rent all the rooms,
It's the same as if it's 100% occupancy, like as if it's 70 tents that are, that have the occupancy in any other day, other than the wedding,
But-
so it doesn't matter.
So if you're invited to the wedding, you're either staying on the property, spending the night on the property,
right,
or you're not.
you're having a wedding on your site, okay? If they want a wedding there,
Mhm.
in the nature, whatever. They're not gonna do it without music, without food and all that.
Well, is the lodge big enough for a reception, or would it be a big tent?
No, that would be within the lodge itself. Sometimes we do have pavilions, like these are light structures, outdoor pavilions for these events. But it could be on lawn, I mean, the wedding, but it's again within the operating hours that we're allowed to, yeah. And to your question, it is, so with our system, it's rare that weddings are rare because it's quite expensive to reserve the whole thing for one single wedding. So that's a rare event, but the reason we do that is that we don't want a lot of disturbance with people coming in and out, like, having a party, drinking, and then having to drive home. Just you either stay on the property or there's no wedding. But it's not a common thing for someone to pay the whole property. Yeah.
So you're gonna have a pavilion on, like a lodge area, how big is that gonna be?
So the lodge area is around 8,000 square feet, give or take. That includes a restaurant, a wellness center, which is like just a simple spa, like massage and stuff, yeah, stuff like that, and a bar, an outdoor deck with a communal fireplace, and an indoors again fireplace and indoor outdoor dining area. So that would be around the main program inside the lodge. And the lodge is usually very close to the road, so we minimize motor vehicle circulation inside the property. And that's the way it's designed here.
So that's like halfway up the road. So that, you're
That would be
getting
number-
about less than a half a mile.
I forgot my reading glasses. Yeah. Yes, it's, I think on the C or number two.
No reading glasses for them.
Yeah.
You can't see.
I can't see.
One of our glasses.
Yes, please.
This is why I'm his assistant, so I can read for him.
And you're gonna put like some I think if you go to like the next slide. I think
The
there's some
previous
kind of-
one?
Yeah, like there's some kind of retreat. or
Excuse me,
nature.
can you please go back to the previous slide? The one before?
Before that, was it before? No, anyone?
Maybe, yeah, I think in the program, I'm not sure.
Thought it was towards the end, but I could be wrong.
So what was the mention?
Well, I think you were gonna put some kind of, like place for like, education, maybe?
So we do have a concierge, like, an outfitter on the property, just to give guidance in terms if they want to, like, we try to make like co-marketing or co-programming with, like, let's say local winery, or so there's someone there to advise you where to go, what to do, the attractions in the area.
Oh, sure.
But we don't have any educational.
Okay, I thought I seen in there that you were gonna work with the local schools.
That would be for staffing, like high schools or colleges. Yeah.
For internships and
Yeah.
people want a summer job.
Yeah.
My fault. Sorry, I thought you meant that you were gonna be working with the school, yeah. Yeah, okay. Wasn't this really good?
Yeah. Yeah, it's primarily for staffing. Yeah.
I still think it's a lot of people for that small an area on that road,
So I've heard that quite a bit. It's 40 acres, it's 70 tents, but yes, 70 tents sounds like, but it's also what you do on the property that makes it. You can have like 30 tents and people are, too loud and too rowdy, and you can have 70 tents, but people are just there, like, enjoying nature, they're having light conversations, they're walking the trailways, they're doing whatever, meditation, bird watching, stargazing. It's not as disturbing as 30 tents in an event area where people are coming back and forth and concerts and parties. And
especially like midweek, as you said, it's only like usually 20 to 30% occupancy. So midweek you won't even, I think,
other than national holidays and it's very, during the week the occupancy rates are very low.
And then from November to April it's closed, like
Yeah.
no one there.
Right, but if the occupancy rate is low, then why do it at all?
No,
Because the weekends.
The weekends make up for the.
So the average occupancy across the year, so the way the business works is like first year is around 50%, then we go to 65%. Usually the average occupancy rates once the property stabilizes will be around 75% across the year. Of course there are spikes and it goes up and down, but the average across the year will be 75% occupancy rate. The weeks are low, the weekends are high, and this is how it balances out. And of course national holidays are. So it becomes,
You know what? You can come and do some yoga and meditation, and you'll be.
I am one with the nature right now. So you know all these people around it.
Yeah, I just have a question for Mr. Yao. Is this type of thing within like some strategic plan that you guys are looking at? Is this type of thing in accordance with that?
The comprehensive plan.
The
Yeah.
comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're most likely, you're gonna listen to us, but you're most likely gonna give the special.
No, not necessarily. I mean, our
But you're encouraging these type of businesses to come to the agritourism to the county, right?
Right. I would say as on the whole, that's what our county is best set up for. We don't want industry. We don't want smokestacks. We don't want.
Would you rather have a data center?
Data centers and stuff.
No, I mean, it looks
But-
like,
Just have a farm there.
yeah, I mean, it looks like a good,
No.
project, but just that location, I mean, that road is really,
Well, there's a lot of factors that'll go into it, no question.
yeah, I mean, like, the project is nice and it seems to fit, that's part of your comprehensive plan, but just the location for that.
No, I didn't mean to say that, this project is part of the comprehensive plan. We're saying that overall, their county, the rural nature of our county lends itself to people who we want to come in here, spend their money, and go home.
Don't spend it on my road, go to someone else's road.
Right, then that's always the case. That's always the case.
Okay, I just wanted to know, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And, here's, I've got a copy of the comprehensive plan right here, and it's online too. And skip all the way to page 28 if you wanna get through all the fluff and go to what the goals and stuff are. But that's a good point, that is part of it, is it?
Do you have any other proposals for other land in this region, or is this the only one on the?
No, at this point, that's the only one we have. It takes so much time I know it's your road, but it takes so much time to find the right property. It's not easy at all. And actually, most of the roads do not lend themselves to these projects because a lot of them are narrow, winding roads that VDOT never approves. That's why we always go to VDOT first. This is one of the few lands, the topography, sometimes, I mean, with the development, if it's too steep, you cannot develop. If it's too flat, it's boring. The roads are too narrow, so VDOT's not going to approve. The bedrock is too shallow, so you cannot do septic. So the boxes, to check all the boxes is so rare. And this property has been vetted out maybe from 100 that we look at that just don't work. And I'm sorry, it's your road, but it's just a good property.
Are you gonna make available what VDOT
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna make available what VDOT has said about the road?
Yes, I can send you, I can forward what he talked about. His name is Willis, I believe. Yeah, the VDOT. Yeah, I believe so. So I can definitely forward you what he said about the property. If I can get your email, I'm happy to share any information that you have.
I have expressed my concerns tonight about my thoughts on this project, but as an observation, it just appears that with 70 tents, and I know you'll need that kind of volume to support some of this other infrastructure, but it seems to be too much for 40 acres. It seems like 70 tents or 100 tents would work better on 70 or 100 acres, and then support the restaurant and support some of this other activity. I think if you put 210 people plus 35 staff, almost 250 people there on a weekend, the nature's gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And that may dilute the appeal of your project overall. So,
Yeah.
I know it's a financial model, but less is more.
Yes, I mean, if we have 70 acres, it's definitely less impact. It is favorable to have more acreage, and the ratio between tents and acreage is healthy, but it's just that the nature of these guests, they usually don't stay on the property during the day, so you don't feel, it's not like an RV campground where people are, there's like, all these activities and like,
70 cars,
yes, and that's why it's,
you won't be able to walk the dogs.
no, but the design of the site plan, this is why we have all the parking very central, right as you go inside the property. Just park your car, and you either use electric golf carts or you just walk. And once you centralize this and you screen it with landscape, it becomes way less visible than you imagined it. Landscape does matter in these projects. How you screen parking lots, how you isolate, maintenance buildings from the view shed. There's so much you can do with the design of the property. And with this property, we really worked with the grading and the contours to minimize, excavation and grading, and that's why most of the property are like 8-9 feet gravel roads just for golf carts and emergency vehicles. That's about it. And when we say emergency vehicles, these are like, for example, with fire department, probably would be brush trucks that can navigate 9 feet roads, as opposed to those 22 feet roads that we need for a full-fledged fire apparatus. So we work with very good landscape architects to make sure we're so lot on the land. For environmental reasons and also for economic reasons. Why would we go grading and breaking and excavating and creating all these large roads? So we do allow pets. Yeah, like there's some regulations related to size and sometimes breeds. When we talk about dogs. They're always leashed. They're always leashed, unless there's a dog park. There's a fenced dog park inside the property. But other than that, they have to be on a leash.
Is there a dog park on that?
No, there is one.
No. What I'm saying is like they're always on a leash. They're never like left to wander on their own.
But you might want to know.
I hope so. No, that's serious.
Well, you probably don't have leashes, so you do need to know that.
Yes.
Okay, so I might try inside our property.
My dog runs loose. So
How far is your property from mine? Would they run from your property to mine? Yeah? Well, it's a community dog, so we have to feed them. We have to give them treats, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I would like to continue the conversation.
When's our next meeting?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, we can agree on the next meeting. If you guys want to call me one-on-one to have a conversation, but I think it's always better in a group so we can exchange notes and reach some consensus regarding, the proffers that we want to add to the special use permit, any conditions that would make you feel more, accepting this project.
Can I ask Mr.
Yes.
Yao? Mr. Yao, don't you have to notify everybody that there's going to be this hearing for the special use permit?
Oh, yeah.
And do we get a chance to talk then and
Yes.
ask questions?
Yeah, even at the workshop, at the planning commission workshop too.
Dumb question of the month then. If we're all gonna have a second meeting or something like that, should we go ahead, would it be better if we wrote down our, I won't say grievances, our concerns or whatever like that, so that we can basically hand it to you and you can look at it rather than I'm sure someone's been taking notes or whatever, you got a recording, you said, like that, so you can, go back and listen to it all, but at least you'd be able to hear, you'd be able to see.
Absolutely.
Like that, well, we've got 15 people all have the same thought about this, like that, or something like that.
Consolidate them.
And then, and that'll be one look, really definitely take a look at that or something like that.
Yeah, I would suggest, if you don't mind, that, you've been working with Ligon Webb. So Ligon Webb is the Madison County planner.
Okay.
And his office is down the hill at the
Right.
old, DDH, building. And, so, I mean, you can go online or it's lwebb@madisonco.virginia.gov. I would send him your concerns.
Okay.
He can consolidate them because he is working with this couple and let them know. I mean, we had a meeting last night and I had all the stack of issues
Right.
that had been submitted to us. All of us had them. So we get them all in one place.
Right.
And the ones that are duplicates, you can.
Right, that's, that's what
And
I'm saying.
then, you turn them around and you can see what the concerns are, and then you've got their contact information, you can start contacting me, and be sure to put your name on there, so.
Right, yeah, right, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's all things, so that way you can always you can get up there and say, you can look at it and say, oh, this one's got this concern here, and you have an answer for it.
Right, how do
Like
we?
that, this one we don't have an answer for like that, we'll have to look into that. Well, but at least, until the next time, you can get up there, maybe then you'd have an answer for it or whatever like that. I realize that a lot of stuff you're not gonna have answers for because they are personal concerns.
Yeah.
Like that, but it would just seem to me it would be, if we had someplace to do it, rather than having it all written down and then have 200 people in here trying to give you all their concerns like that, and a lot of them are gonna be, like I said, duplicates and stuff.
Yeah, and Mr. Carpenter over there, he is the chairman of the planning commission, so he's the first stop.
Right.
In the process.
Send it to Ligon anyway.
And yes, so Ligon, yeah, I started to give him your address, not, Ligon can consolidate them.
Okay, you're right, I just wanted something, make it make time a little bit better for everybody like that, rather than you having to try and come up with 200 different people, come up with almost the same time, like that, now you have to explain to each person. Like that.
I'm thinking if you don't mind, if you're interested, leave like your name, your phone number, your email address, and also send to Ligon whatever concerns you have, and maybe you can have, I'm thinking out loud, see what's best for you guys, but maybe you can have, if the weather permits, like gathering on the property, you guys can see the property, we can have a conversation there, we can, just.
I know the property.
If you don't wanna come, don't come, if you wanna come, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
That's
or
why
we can meet somewhere.
I could probably show you.
Your property or their property? Their property? Have you been on the property?
Grew up on.
On that, oh wow.
I used to hunt on that place. So I played pad.
I can give my business
You
card.
said no.
How would you address medical emergencies with 9-foot roads?
There are like specially designed gators,
They cost about $50,000.
and that's okay. I'd rather do that than build 20 feet road on the property. So yeah, there are gators that are designed for ants. Okay.
Has the board of supervisors already made up their mind on this?
Nobody, I mean, this is the first Dustin's heard of it. This is the second I've heard of it because I'm also the liaison to the planning commission, so I sat through, your virtual presentation, but nobody else even knows about it yet.
And that's my, another concern, that so little of us in the area knew about this until I started bringing it up and called, about it. So I'm sure there's a lot of people off of,
We only got the letter
Yeah,
yesterday.
I got the letter yesterday. It was postmarked March 22nd.
Yeah, well, that's,
Yesterday,
Yeah.
so a week ago.
Yeah.
we don't see folks like this reach out very often. Now, as a matter of fact, we were talking about, we had one, some folks wanted to start a school up in, what was that, Craiglesville, Tracy, remember a couple of years ago? And those folks organized, they had these meetings at the Methodist Church up there, and, the folks came out and voiced their concerns, and then they pulled their, application, so, I mean, it's not a done deal, and the other three on the board, they don't know, that's the reason they wanted Dustin and myself to come tonight, just to.
This is
just-
again their meeting, so a
Yeah.
lot of people don't care enough, frankly.
Well, if you read the letter I got,
Yeah.
it said, being a neighbor,
Yeah.
like that, we would like to talk to you and stuff like that,
That's-
see
yeah,
what's
that's-
going on. That, to me, that sort of meant, I talked to people, Tommy Ford and stuff, lives up the hill, that sort of stuff like that. That's not
Yeah.
neighbor, technically it is in Madison.
I don't think
If you're within
people
12
identify.
miles, so you're in Madison like that. But if it's not, you know, I know they don't look, peruse the paper all the time, all the legal stuff that we're having this and that and those. So if it's not broadcast, they're not gonna know about it. You know, like that. Yeah. But what I'm saying though is, unless you read word for word,
Yeah.
I got the Madison Eagle, and I don't read it word for word,
No.
especially not the legal notices.
But it wasn't
Which,
put in the paper.
I'm sorry,
or
I
anything.
Not yet, no. At this point, no, not yet.
Why?
Because we haven't started we haven't started the application, we just want to talk to you before we start the application process.
But Gracie at the Eagle and I, when he had his thing at the planning commission, we both wrote articles on it. That being said, when Cressier was started, the 18 months prior to that, when the county was going through with the ordinance and everything, we wrote articles every month on it.
On this
And-
project?
No, on the Cressier project. And when it came for public hearing, and we had a 5-6 hour public hearing at the high school, people didn't know about it. So people don't read.
But,
Make it specific.
So we're trying to be proactive, we're trying to, before we start the application process, reach out and have a conversation. Hopefully that's first of a few before we go through the hearing, and,
but if you're applying next month for it.
Budget pulled together, because I'm off tomorrow, so I need to get it published. The thing I said about that 11 o'clock, you said the nighttime, I might do that, I might go along with something like that on the weekend. I used to work construction. I left the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, which then I went to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And for any kind of noise going on, I got no sleep.
during the week.
Like that, so that's why I was saying during the week, you're gonna have to make it no later than 9, as in terms of the noise curfew, then maybe on the weekend or something like that, go like that. You've got a lot of people, even, I know a lot of farmers don't stay up till 11 o'clock at night. Like, they get in bed early too, so like that, but I'm just saying, it's just, to sit there and say 10 or 11, that ain't gonna work. Anyway, that's, I just wanna check about that,
Yeah, I wanna be clear about one other thing too, real quick, is that when the law, Virginia code requires we're required to notify, send a letter to all adjacent landowners. Now, I don't know who all you sent this letter to, but
Beyond that.
it's beyond that. So the folks that don't have property adjacent to this property won't get this second letter. So, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
We want to know where it stops. So,
the
talk
only
it
ones
up.
that'll get it is the pins that,
Right.
it's their property anyway, so.
But I got a letter because I called, because I seen your board meeting last month, and you brought this up last month.
Oh, at the planning commission?
Yeah, yes, sorry, the board of supervisors.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only one who watches them, but.
Yeah. But that's where.
It's gotta
yeah.
touch it.
Yes, but my property touches across the street property.
So you won't get.
You won't get
I
it.
won't get it.
Right.
Unless you touch that.
And that's why they've gone the extra mile
He's about the
to
only
do
one.
it.
Right, so that's not enough, like,
Good, sir.
this is gonna affect other people, just
Yeah.
besides the ones that are
Is
adjacent.
And that's why we send letters beyond
Right.
the adjacent.
We appreciate that,
Hmm.
because King, we had the same.
So go to madrap.com. When are you gonna have this on there?
The video? Video probably by sometime this weekend, it'll be up because I gotta edit it.
And, you know, check it.
Was Madison County on Facebook?
No.
Hey, John, we don't have a Facebook?
They use Tracy's.
Right now, we operate through the tourism Facebook page. We have not gone full-blown county page yet. So look for tourism, Madison County Tourism Facebook page.
So we're on the Madison government website, would you find, track the progress of any hearings or?
The very first page, can you pull the Madison County website up? It's right on the front page, I'll show you. Bottom left. Agendas and minutes. Go to agendas and minutes. And you'll see April 6th meeting, on there. That was last night, Joint Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. There's the agenda packet. And just, the agenda is just the one page. The agenda packet has all the backup to it. That's everything that both of these bodies would have in front of them. So that's where you go.
There's a calendar, so you can, future dates too?
Well, yeah, we've got on there so far, we've got 4/12, 4/11, there's a planning commission committee meeting right there. At 4/11, I guess, let's see, today's the 7th, so the details will be put on there.
So well, you can go to the main website, and how Alan got there, at the bottom, you had several things, GIS, agenda, meeting, and minutes. Can you go back, there you go, so you, at the bottom of our, by my own rules here, at the bottom of our webpage, you can see there are several things, agenda, budget, GIS. You will go to agenda and minutes. The planning commission workshops are the third Wednesday of the month. The joint meetings, which is the planning commission and the board of supervisors, that's generally when the public hearing would be, if they hear it on a certain night, is the first Wednesday of every month. Once the agenda gets loaded, it's put on the website, so naturally we haven't, gone through certain meetings yet. Obviously the board's, meeting, which I was working on, I was working on that, I was out of here. That will be loaded by close of business tomorrow, so we try to publish the Friday before the following meeting.
Now, does this
Or we
match-
do, I shouldn't say probably, we do publish the Friday before.
Does this match the, tax map parcel exactly, or does it overlap something?
Yes.
The 22-19 as far as the web GIS stuff?
Yes.
Does this look like it's bigger than what it looks like on web GIS?
It's the base map is built on GIS.
And you'll
Yeah,
see
it's the
it,
same size.
you'll see it as Wendy Penholler's.
Right, I just thought it looked smaller on web GIS than
It may, now GIS, let me say the caveat, a couple feet here or there, I mean, if you pull up, I look at different areas all the time, it's like, well, wait a minute, how can the house be split between three parcels? I
Yeah.
mean, it's, But, so for the most part though, this would be accurate on GIS.
It is accurate.
Close enough for government work.
I've got 4 people living like that.
Do you have paper?
Yes, we
Write
can.
down our-
Everybody got them.
I've got it.
Can we view our report and you can send us your email on the message? That's the only